What's up, YouTube? Capital G here. Today I'm going to talk about Inzectors, the archetype that's going to be coming out in Order of Chaos. It's been pretty good in Japan. I've seen a ton of it on Dueling Network. The hype wagon is ridiculous for this deck. It's basically like a non-synchroed version of Dragoonity. It's so much more consistent, and it doesn't have any of the drawbacks that Dragoonity have. So the archetype, the main three of the archetype that you're going to want to focus on are Hornet, Dragonfly, and Centipede. They're all level 3, which means they make rank 3 exceeds very easily. And the deck does a lot of looping and a lot of on-field destruction. This deck controls the field probably better than any deck that I think in the TCG. The main card in the heartbeat of the deck is Hornet. Hornet basically equips to any of your other Inzectors, and you get to basically send it to the graveyard to blow a card up. Now, that's already good in itself, but when you do that, then you get to activate the other Inzectors effects. Dragonfly is the second one. Dragonfly is like the muscle of the deck. It's what it starts the loop. It basically blows up stuff, and it gets you in the position of where you're completely controlling your opponent's field. When you equip Hornet and you blow something up on your opponent's field, then you get to special summon another Inzector. Most of the time, it's going to be Centipede, which rounds out the loop, and it's the speed. It gives it the loop its consistency. But in certain occasions, like if you have game or something, you might want to get Gigamantis. And then the last card that ends out the loop is Centipede. What Centipede does is when Centipede, when a equipped is sent to the graveyard via an Inzector's effect, then you get to add an Inzector to your hand. So let's say you use Dragonfly, you equipped Hornet, you blow something up, bring out Centipede, equipped it with Hornet, blow something up again, then you can just search for another Dragonfly and then exceed. So it's like you've already got a bunch of pluses on the field, but then next turn you get to do it all over again. And then you've got Gigamantis, which is, I mean, it's a card you're just going to run one of. It helps mitigate things like Effect Veiler, which really cripple this deck. Basically, it turns your Inzectors into 2400 beaters, and then when that Inzector dies, you get to special another Inzector from your graveyard. So it's also pretty nice, and sometimes it can let you push for game when you have that opportunity. Other cards that are going to basically make up the deck are, typical things like Tour Guide, Max C. Mystic Tomato is one card that I have found out has been very good in this deck. I got that from the Japanese. The deck can have some early game consistency issues, just getting really random hands. This card lets you get the Sangan, it lets you get the Dragonfly. It lets you basically get to whatever you might need at the time to get your combo started. The entire deck is dark, so for the most part, you're going to be able to get to what you need. I have to love the fact that, unlike Dragoonity, this deck isn't really affected by Max C that much. If you go for the loop, if you pop a card with Dragonfly and your opponent chains Max C, you can just simply get Centipede, pop another card on their field, and just end with those two monsters. And all your opponent got was a 1-for-1, which, I mean, that's not going to put them in the position to be dominating you. A lot of times if they don't have something like that, you're going to exceed for, windups and mains to give yourself some good protection from their next turn. But if you don't, it's really not that big of a deal. The most they're going to get is that little 1-for-1 play. And Call the Haunted is a card that fits in really nicely with this deck, almost like Infernities. It can let you loop more, like if you summon a Dragonfly and your opponent has Effect Veiler, or even better, many cases they have like something like Warning, then you can just activate Call the Haunted and keep it trucking. I like Ally of Genix Birdman. It fits right in here. You can summon it via Mystic Tomato and stuff like that. And when you have your loop ended, then it allows you to bounce like a Dragonfly from your hand, and then be able to summon it basically right to the field. And you can even make things like Underground Arachnid, which is always pretty nice because it has that built-in Snatch Steal effect, which steals cards like BLS and Trishula and things that might be a bitch, Zenmain, stuff like that. The main cards you're going to want to use against this deck for side decking, Effect Veiler. Effect Veiler is murder on this deck. It stops them in their tracks. All the Inzectors have really low stats, 1600, 1000. They're not very high. Chain Disappearance is also really good because your opponent summons Dragonfly. You can just activate Chain Disappearance. You can remove all the Dragonflies from their deck, and they're going to have a very hard time trying to win then. That also works against Tour Guide and Sangan, which those are obviously good plays too. And then Concentrated Lights. That's awfully good card against this deck because I mean the entire deck is going to be dark for the main deck for the most part. I mean obviously Maxis, Effect Veilers, stuff like that, hand traps, those might be dark as those aren't dark, but you know I mean those aren't really going to be that relevant. You know, for the main deck, most of their monsters are going to be dark. And then you end up with like a Shadow Imprisoning Mirror, which is definitely a good card because, again, this whole deck is dark. This is going to stop everything they want to do. And then you can also side this in against Dark World, Infernities, maybe the new Chaos Dragon deck that's upcoming. So, yeah. I think that this deck is very good. I don't think it's overhyped. I think that, people say that it's easy to side for, but it's relatively easy to side for what your opponent sides against you. The biggest problem this deck have is against cards like Effect Veiler, but I've even seen Inzector players siding stuff like Dimensional Fissure because obviously sending stuff to the graveyard while it's a spell or trap doesn't trigger it to go to remove from play. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about the deck, and if you have any questions, just comment below.